Welcome to Retirement Ramblings. I'm Scott, and today is day 243 on my countdown to retirement. So today was broken down into 5 major activities: cooking/meal prep, a portfolio review, grocery shopping, troubleshooting an airbag sensor in my 2007 Toyota Tundra, and watching portions of the pre-recorded Berkshire Hathaway annual meeting. So I had promised my wife that I would make her my quote unquote famous sausage and lentil soup. And so that's what I did this morning. And I apologize in advance for looking down, but to make sure that I get everything right for you guys, I just want to be able to read some of the notes that I had made. So the recipe is really simple, and the taste comes out very good, in multiple people's opinion, not the least of which is my own. And so while I'm going to leave the specific details in the description below, if you're interested in trying to make this, the ingredients that you're going to need are olive oil, Italian sausage, yellow onion, garlic, dry lentils, chicken broth or bouillon plus water, diced tomatoes, and Italian seasoning. And for me, I start off making chicken broth using better than bouillon roasted chicken base plus some water, just because I like the taste of that better, and so does my wife and other people that that eat the soup, versus a store-bought broth. So I basically put the water in. I put a giant scoop of the chicken base into the water, turn it on to high, so that I can basically combine and break up the bouillon so that it incorporates well within the water to make the chicken broth. So then I add in the Italian seasoning that's required, stir all that up so that it combines well. And then while that's coming to a boil, I dice up an onion finely, and then I add garlic into the top of the onion because I'm going to be adding both of those together into the pot. Then I puree some petite diced tomatoes, and I do that just because that's my preferred texture. If you like your soup chunkier, you can just leave the diced tomatoes the way they are, and you'll just deal with the chunks that are in there. My wife doesn't like that, so she wants it to be more like a silky soup, so I puree it. And so then when the ingredients are all prepared, then you add olive oil to your stock pot over medium-high heat. You add in the sausage, and then you break up the sausage in the pan into very small pieces, and you continually stir it, browning the sausage. And you need to brown the sausage till you start getting sticky bits on the bottom of your pot. And I say that making the assumption that you're not using a non-stick pot. If you're using a non-stick pot, you just need to make sure that you get visibly browned sausage before doing the rest of the recipe. But the sticky bits on the bottom of the pan, while you're browning the sausage, will add substantial additional flavor when you then add in your onion and garlic, and then you use the onion and garlic as a deglazing agent to get all the sticky bits off, while they soften and cook and incorporate within the sausage. And then once that's done, I add in the pureed tomatoes, and then I follow that up with the chicken stock that has the Italian seasoning in it. And then I cover that. Well, I stir it well. Then I cover it and bring it to a boil. When it's come up to a boil, then I add in the lentils, which will reduce it from a boil, bring it back up to a simmer, and then I lower the heat to, I'll call it medium low to low, and I cover it. Well, I've stirred them in, I cover it, and then I just occasionally stir it for an hour until the lentils are basically, tender. And then once that hour's up, pretty much the soup is ready to eat. So I did that, and that became my wife's lunch. She had 2 bowls of the soup. And then when she was done and satisfied that 2 bowls was going to do it for her, I separated out the remainder of the soup into 3 1-quart mason jars. And kind of pro tip, you take 2 to 3 ladles from the soup and put them in each one of the mason jars to make sure that you get a good amount of sausage and lentils in each container. And then you continually balance out and add individual scoops to each of the different mason jars so that one jar doesn't just end up with a lot of broth with no, sausage, lentil, onions, whatever. You pretty much get 3 jars that are equally mixed up. So then I let them cool and then eventually put them in the fridge. I label them and put them in the fridge for later consumption. And I will say that the flavors meld together and become more intense after about 24 hours. So usually my wife ends up eating the soup like a day or 2 down the road, and she likes it a lot better actually after it's got a chance to meld together, in the fridge. Then while the soup was cooking, I meal prepped a turkey breast, a 6-pound turkey breast that I planned to make for dinner. So I got that basically put in a roasting pan with a cup of water under it, sitting on a rack, coated the whole thing with olive oil, and then put some salt, pepper, garlic powder on top of the skin. Not that we were really going to use that later, but put that in the oven at 350. According to the directions, it should take 2.5 to 3 hours to cook. After 2 hours using my instant thermometer, it was already up to about 180 degrees. I did not want it to get super dried out, so I pulled it, even though it was supposed to cook for another 30 to 45 minutes. Then I let it rest for half an hour to both cool down and to hopefully pull the juices back into the meat. Then after a half an hour, I sliced it down and then put it into a glass storage container. And then once it was sufficiently cooled, put it into the fridge, later for dinner. And then while the turkey was cooking, I did my weekly portfolio review like I do every Saturday. And we ended the week up 1.45% over last week. We're still down 3% from the high in mid-February, and we're almost back to break even for the year. So we're down 0.15% for the year so far. And then I also have multiple T-bills coming due in the month of May. So while I know that I'm going to reinvest them using 6-month or shorter T-bills, I have to decide on the term, whether it's 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 6 weeks, 13 weeks, 17 weeks, or 26 weeks, to appropriately create the ladder so that they don't all come due at the same time. And again, dependent upon what I think the Fed's going to be doing, I'll try and structure that ladder to try and not only maximize the yield, but to make sure again that it comes due and I can roll them over while the rates are still where I think they're going to be. Anyway, once I got that done, I made my breakfast, which ended up being 4 scrambled eggs and 4 pieces of bacon. And then I ran out to Lidl, Publix, and Costco to pick up the remainder of our grocery items for the week. And so I picked up fresh chicken wings and skirt steak that was on sale at Lidl, a top round London broil over at Publix, because I went to 2 different Publixes and both Publixes were sold out of the BOGO ground beef. They were sold out of top sirloin. And I forget what the other ones were, but basically they were sold out of all the meats that were on sale. And the only things left were like $16 and $17 ribeyes and things along those lines. And then I went to Costco and I got top sirloin at Costco along with 3 containers of 18 eggs each. Because while I was there, I called my wife and she was telling me she's going to start eating more eggs. And so since I normally just buy 36 eggs just to cover me for, a week to 10 days, I added in the extra container if she's going to start consuming more than she normally does, which is basically nil. Then, as I was leaving Lidl, my airbag sensor in my 2007 Toyota Tundra came on. So when I got home, I started researching what is that, how, why does it come on, whatever. I watched multiple YouTube videos. I looked at a variety of Google search results. I ran my ODBC2 code checker. No codes came up. The videos told me to unplug certain things under the seats. I did, because that would reset the symbol or the icon that's on the dash. I tried that. Didn't happen. So I'm going to have to do some additional research tomorrow. Ultimately, it may end up being the actual sensor, which is under the seat, so that when you sit down, let's say on the passenger seat, and it says, "Oh, airbag activated," because it knows the weight change on the seat. Maybe that's the sensor that went bad. When I sat in the passenger seat, it came on, and I could actually see it change. On the driver's seat, because it's always enabled, I couldn't verify whether it was actually acknowledging something or not. So more research to come on that. Then I sat down to watch a portion of the pre-recorded Berkshire Hathaway annual shareholder meeting. And so Berkshire Hathaway is up 19% year to date, while the S&P is down 3.31%. Berkshire's top 5 holdings are Amex, Apple, Bank of America, Coca-Cola, and Chevron. And then I found this part interesting. Berkshire's investments in all their different equity positions, not including obviously the companies they own outright, is somewhere between 250 and 300 billion dollars. Their cash pile that they keep in treasuries, and by the way, Berkshire owns 5% of the entire treasury bill allotment from the government, which I thought was pretty interesting as well. But they have just under 350 billion in U.S. treasuries. So that means that Berkshire's portfolio allocation at the end of Q1 2024 is 44% equity and 56% fixed income and cash. And then at the beginning of the meeting, Warren Buffett praised Tim Cook of Apple for generating more money for Berkshire Hathaway than Warren himself has done for Berkshire shareholders. So it was kind of a comical, for me anyway, message. And I'm going to actually show that to you.
I listen to Tim Cook, and I understand. And it'll be tough for me to see him from up here, but Tim Cook, there he is. I'm somewhat embarrassed to say that Tim Cook has made the Berkshire a lot more money than I've ever made Berkshire Hathaway. So credit should be given to him for. I knew Steve Jobs briefly, and Steve, of course, did things that nobody else could have done in developing Apple, but Steve picked out Tim to succeed him, and he really made right decision. Steve died young, as you know, and nobody but Steve could have created Apple, but nobody could. But Tim could have developed it like it has. So on behalf of all of Berkshire, thank you.
Then Warren addressed tariffs. That was the first question that Becky Quick of CNBC asked him on behalf of shareholders and folks that have written in. And my summary of Warren's position was it's an act of economic war. Trade should not be a weapon. A balanced trade is good for the world. We should do what we do best. We want a prosperous world, and it won't be at our expense. We don't want other countries to be envious of us. It's a big mistake in his view to have 7.5 billion people that don't like you very well, and then to just have 300 million people that are crowing about how well they've done. So fundamentally, he's against tariffs. And again, I'm going to show you a small snippet here so you can hear in his own words.
Thanks, Warren. This first question comes from Bill Mitchell. I received more questions about this than any other question. He writes, Warren, in a 2003 Fortune article, you argued for import certificates to limit trade deficits and said these import certificates basically amounted to a tariff. But recently, you called tariffs an act of economic war. Has your view on trade barriers changed, or do you see import certificates as somehow distinct from tariffs?
Yeah, well, the import certificates were distinct, and there's no question that trade can be an act of war, and I think it's led to bad things. Just the attitudes it's brought out. In the United States, I mean, we should be looking to trade with the rest of the world, and we should do what we do best, and they should do what they do best. And I don't think it. That's what we did originally. I mean, we were good at producing tobacco and cotton 250 years ago, and we traded it. And we want a prosperous world with 8 countries with nuclear weapons, including a few that are what I would call quite unstable. I do not think it's a great idea to try and design a world where a few countries say, ha, 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 we've won, and other countries are envious. So my import certificate idea, which went no place, I think we've got extra copies around with them. Not a great demand for the copies. Anybody did, and if you'd like, and write the office, I think we could probably send you a copy of it. But the main thing to do is not use trade should not be a weapon. And in the United States, we've won. I mean, we have become an incredibly important country, starting from nothing. 250 years ago, there's nothing been anything like it. And it's a big mistake, in my view, when you have 7.5 billion people that don't like you very well, and you got 300 million that are crowing in some way about how well they've done. And I don't think it's right, and I don't think it's wise. I do think that the more prosperous the rest of the world becomes, it won't be at our expense. The more prosperous we'll become, and the safer we'll feel, and your children will feel someday. So that's. But don't expect my import certificate idea to go up down there with Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations or anything. Okay.
And then Warren discussed the volatility of the market over the last 100 days. He said basically it was a blip in the scheme of things. Uh, and if you can't handle a 15% move in the market, you need a different investment philosophy because there's going to be lots bigger moves than that. And if you're in the market, you need to effectively check your emotions at the door. Like over the history of investing, there's been many times where the market has moved well more than 15%. And again, I'm going to let you hear from him in his own words.
The first quarter ended March 31st, and it did show that Berkshire's cash pile expanded from the end of the last year. But the greatest market turmoil came in April. Martin Devine, a shareholder from Scotland who is attending the meeting today, wants to know, has the recent market volatility presented Berkshire with opportunities? And Martin just wrote in an addendum in the last 40 minutes or so, pointing out that you mentioned Berkshire almost invested $10 billion recently, and wanting to know if you could talk more about that.
Well, then, I can give you a good answer to the second part, which is no. But 10 billion wouldn't have done that much, that's the other side, another side of it. What has happened in the last 30, 45 days, 100 days, whatever you want to pick up, whatever this period has been, it's really nothing. There's been 3 times since we acquired Berkshire that Berkshire has gone down 50% in a very short period of time, 3 different times. Nothing was fundamentally wrong with the company at any time, but this is not a huge move. The Dow Jones average hit 381 in September of 1929. It got down to 42. So that's by going from 100 to 11. This has not been a dramatic bear market or anything of the sort. I mean, it was, like pointed out, if I've had 250 trading days a day, for however many years I've been old enough to trade stocks, got 17 or 18,000 days. There's been plenty of periods that just are dramatically different than this. I mean, when the day I was born, the Dow Jones was at 240, and that was August 30th, 1930, and between that and the low, it went from 240 to 41. I mean, so if people think that it made a really major change, it didn't. If it had gone up 15% instead of down 15%, people think they take that with remarkable grace. but if it makes a difference to you whether your stocks are down 15% or not, you need to get a somewhat different investment philosophy, because the world is not going to adapt to you. You're going to have to adapt to the world, and you will see a period certainly in the next 20 years, you'll see a period that will be in what somebody in the market described one time as a hair curler compared to anything you've seen before. I mean, it just happens periodically. The world makes big mistakes, and surprises happen in dramatic ways, and the more sophisticated the system gets, the more the surprises can be out of right field. That's part of the stock market, and that's what makes it a good place to focus your efforts if you've got the proper temperament for it, and a terrible place to get involved if you get frightened by markets that decline and get excited when stock markets go up. I don't mean to sound particularly critical. I mean, I know and people have emotions, but you got to check them at the door when you invest. Okay.
And then I didn't get to do my Bolden update today. That'll have to wait until tomorrow. But that's my update for today. If you have any questions, any comments, please leave them in the comments section down below, or drop me an email at myretirementramblings@gmail.com. Otherwise, I hope you have a great evening, and until tomorrow, take care.